Hey guys, welcome to Masters Comic Cast. I'm Rob Bass, and you know what this comic cast is usually about. We talk about the new comics, and unfortunately today Yuka is out, but I have Joe here. Joe, thank you for being here.
Great to be here, as always.
And what's really cool about today, we decided that we've been getting lots of good responses all over from everywhere, from every place the podcast has been posted, be it in video form or the MP3 or whatever you find it. We got really solid responses, and instead of just saying, hey, before we do the mini comic 2, we'll read some fan email, we decided that you guys are really important to us, so we just decided to give you guys your own podcast. There's not many real questions. Most of the time we get a lot of response like, thank you, it's really cool, we loved it, whatever, but we got 3 different really unique questions. I thought it'd be really cool that we go through these 3 and take our time answering these questions, because they ask us some solid, good questions, so it'd be kind of interesting our perspective of what they said.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, Yuka couldn't make it, so Yuka did give us a response to at least one of the questions, so we will, in spirit, pretend to be Yuka for this.
We'll try that. One of us got to be real cool, calm, and relaxed to do Yuka, though.
I don't think I could ever be that cool, calm, and relaxed in my life.
I can't either. I mean, when he'll read that and he does it with just, like I said, such a smooth, relaxed response, I was like, I can't picture that either. The way I get pumped up is like, no.
It's just too hard. It's just because, you know what? For Yuka, what I think is his benefit is what he thinks is his downfall, is that he has to think about what he has to say before he speaks. Mm-hmm. Obviously, since English is his second language, he has to take his time with it, which is what makes him sound way more cooler and relaxed. Right. He's probably just as ticked off as we are, but he has to be like, take his time.
I guess the way to get across either Yuka being like us or us like him is when you record us, slow us down so we'll sound smooth like Yuka.
And no, we'll just sound like creepy guys, being like when they make those ransom phone calls. That's all we're going to sound like.
Right.
So, all right, the first question comes from Tony Moore. Well, it's not a question. He has a bunch of things he wants to say. Tony Moore has sent this email to us right after the first podcast. So that's why I'm reading this thing first. It might not have anything to do with what happened in the second podcast, but I have to give Tony Moore a shout out. His screen name is Simbasguard on the He-Man.org.
Right.
And he says, Dear Masters Comic Cast, great show. It was really a neat idea that the new Master Universe comics have a podcast devoted to them. I've been listening as long as this show runs. I will be listening as long as this show runs. See, already I'm sounding great. I'm very excited about the new Master Universe comics from DC. I haven't been a dedicated comic reader since 2005. But I will be collecting these new Master Universe comics. Obviously, I think we can honestly say that if you're a Master Universe fan and you don't buy these comics, you're just going to do yourself a disservice. I mean, it's only 6 issues to get behind, so
gotta get them.
You have to. From what little I have heard of it, sounds very interesting. If all the Master Universe have their memory erased and now have new lives, I'm wondering where Cringer will be. Could he be in the wild? Could he be in some Eternian zoo? Or could Adam's loyal pet tiger be the one that in his life that has not changed? It occurred to me that whatever spell or device Skeletor used to alter Eternia's reality and erase the memories of the Masters must also have erased the memories of the Masters from all the Eternia's populace. Otherwise, there is the chance that an average Eternian could find the brainwashed Masters and try to jog their memory. As to why Skeletor chose to brainwash the Masters rather than kill them, my guess is that Skeletor finds it amusing that his greatest enemies are now under his rule. I look forward to actually seeing what happens. So let's talk about Cringer for a second. Where is this cat?
I didn't even think of that either. Until he brought that question up, which I'm glad he did. It was a good question. That's something that wasn't even in my mind. I mean, like he said, is he maybe with Adam still? Is he in a zoo? Could he even be maybe captured by Skeletor and Grayskull and just be, he's torturing him? Maybe he's keeping him for his amusement. I guess I never even thought of that.
Here's the question. Are they even in this whole different world? Is there a Cringer?
Yeah, I guess that could be a good point. You mean just maybe it was just Battle Cat period, or maybe...
maybe Cringer won't be talking. Maybe, remember in 2000X, Cringer didn't talk.
Right.
And which I do prefer. I have to say, last night I was up with the baby again, and I was watching that Kubo channel, and of course I keep trying to watch the Filmation, guys. I'm really trying my hardest to find love for it. I was watching the episode. Joe probably remembers way better than I will. It's the Filmation episode where somehow they capture Cringer to trap Adam. He-Man shows up and he's about ready to step on one little brick on the floor, which will open up a trap door to an octopus. Whatever.
All right.
So Cringer gets brave, throws himself in his cage, and so He-Man can catch him and says, "I didn't want you to get caught in the trap." And, "Hey, Cringer, you're brave," and Cringer's talking like the Cowardly Lion. And I gotta tell you, it's a freaking tiger. It's a green tiger, and here it is, a coward. Like I've noticed him more as I'm watching these Filmations. You guys are gonna be mad, but I'm getting more mad now as I'm watching. Like I'm getting like really offended by how they completely make a mockery of episodes. So you went from having Battlecat, this great, powerful with a helmet and this, to like, oh, trying to find the yellow brick road. And I'm kind of mad. And I love how like Skeletor puts a trap for He-Man in his place, but and Skeletor's looking at the globe, going a little bit further, step on that one brick tile, and it was like a little brick tile about the size of He-Man's foot.
Right. Right.
What if he didn't walk that way? Like,
I know it's always a coincidence, isn't? That's how it has to be. They have
I like
to
how
go
Skeletor
on
was
that
like yelling at the globe too, like further. It's like, well, why didn't you just shoot him? I was like so like mad, and then you go right into the She-Ra episode because it's a whole block on QUOBO, Cubo, whatever you want to call the network.
Right.
And they go from He-Man, they go right to She-Ra, and She-Ra has a cowardly dragon episode.
So you had double the dose of cowardly, from Cringer to sorrowful.
And then Bo is like a moron, and he wants to grab a door and hide her and protect her. And then this big comic relief thing, the dragon gets scared and knocks the building that Bo runs her into and hides her. It goes flying up in the air, crashes back down. All of a sudden, he's in a dress now, Bo, and a door's on the floor with a pot on her head. And I'm like, this is the strongest woman in the universe? You're proud of this?
Oh, boy.
How can you be proud of these characters when they're like these in these episodes?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I remember that. A lot of the stuff from the Filmation, that a lot was kooky and corny. Obviously, I mean, I know it was for a child's eyes.
No. Even as a child, I told you, I got stuck watching it, but I don't remember ever being happy about it. So maybe I'm just one of those unique kids.
Yeah, somewhat. I mean, I know. I guess they got a little extra lighthearted and goofy in some of those episodes. I agree, but yeah. As for Cringer, like now, like when he was asking that, and if he's scared, I can understand being a little scared, but maybe not over the top, like you said, cowardly lion.
Right, like when people think of Cringer, because remember, as me growing up with the toys, I had the toys, and then the cartoon show came out because I'm old enough to have. Like you too, so
yeah.
We had the toys first. We were there with the toys, and we didn't get influenced by the cartoon show. We had the toys, and then we saw the cartoon show.
Right.
So there was no Cringer to me. And if you took off Battlecat's armor, it was still a ferocious green tiger. So,
yeah.
So then when the the MYP came out, Battlecat and Cringer were a lot better. Long as Cringer didn't speak, he doesn't seem as weak, and I don't think they ever really portrayed him as being overtly too cowardly, if I don't remember correctly. Maybe
no, and the one thing like I said, I wish they could find even a better middle ground. I mean, if they're going to have him be somewhat afraid, but not so, like, let's say, to speak. We don't need the cowardly lion type of always frightened and shaking your Adam.
Right.
We don't really need that. And as for the 2000 series MYP, they actually had him meow like a little kitten, which that annoyed me. I was like, how about you just guys, completely eliminate anything. He could be in fear and run and hide, but I mean, to go from one extreme of the weird talking to then meowing like he's just a little cat, that even annoyed me. I was like, I don't even want any of that. Just have him be, afraid. If he's afraid, he runs. That's it. But
it's an animal. Even tigers, at the toughest, can be like, oh crap, I'm in a situation I can't handle. It's what nature does. So now we gotta say, like, is Cringer gonna be in the new series? I'm not too sure, because the way they're making this talk, we haven't even seen any concept art of what even Adam's gonna look like. Is it really Adam like you guys wanted? Like, then you gotta have the fans that could be really confused. Like, is this the 2000X Adam where he's all scrawny, skinny teenager, or is this the Adam who was pretty much He-Man just with a pink vest?
Yeah, I'm curious to see their take on that too. But I guess
hope it's like the DC mini. Remember the DC 3-issue miniseries? How Adam was in that. I would prefer that Adam, which was
Yeah,
like
wasn't he like a ladies' man in
he
that?
was a ladies' man. He didn't
Yeah.
wear any pink, you
Yep.
know, and he was kind of like he was like Tony Stark
He
of
was.
the he
Yeah.
was.
No. Yeah, he was, and he was arrogant. He was lazy. He didn't care. He was
Well,
laid
that
back.
would make sense because you know what? At least if you portrayed him like that, and then you find out like he's given this power, you think like he doesn't deserve it. There's more dynamics of a story there.
Oh yeah. And I guess if anything, for it to go back to Cringer, if like what he's wondering, I guess my take is if he's to show up, I would almost prefer him, hopefully, to be with the source. Excuse me, the sorceress, because she's going to show up at some point. Maybe she's protected and had Cringer with her all this time, and maybe then when she tries to make Adam remember about being He-Man, she would also bring Cringer and say, maybe this was your pet. He becomes a Battle Cat. Maybe she would explain something to him to jog his memory. So I think if my hopes, I would hope Cringer would be with the sorceress, if anything.
Well, even if they can mind wipe everybody, well, couldn't they mind wipe the animals? I mean, obviously, Cringer's not just a regular like horse or dog. It's actually something special.
Right.
So maybe they could do that. Or if he doesn't speak, even if they could do it that he didn't get mind wiped, and Cringer's there trying to like make Adam do stuff, try to figure it out. Maybe that could be a catalyst.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of variables. Maybe they just won't have any of the pets in this comic.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they go with so many angles. I mean, the same thing with like, and remember everybody that Rob's favorite things in all the Master Universe world are filmation type dialogue. He also loves Orko. He told me this many times.
Personally,
Yeah, personally, he said he would love to see Orko too because he loves the character's essence and what he brought to the whole thing. So just remember that those
dynamics. There's a lot of dynamics in
two
Orko.
dynamics. Yeah, so you make sure if you send him emails, and pictures, that's things that Rob really appreciates, isn't that right?
I completely disagree with you, but I will say yes. No, I mean really because in the long run, like I hope they just kind of keep to the core 8-back characters from the toys.
Yeah.
He-Man. Even if we don't get Battle Cat, I'm fine with it. If Cringer's not there, look, it's only 6 issues. If it takes a whole issue for Adam just to figure out who he is,
Yeah, I
putting
think if
Battle
anything,
Cat may not be necessary. It'd
right.
be cool to have it, but it'd be cool to have all your favorite characters. But really, it's gonna be He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Teela.
Yeah, because I'm wondering if they're. Yeah, I'm feeling probably if anything maybe the 8 card back and just how the vintage comics used to be. So that's probably going to be hopefully. I mean, I don't honestly see Orko because when you were talking about magical and with Cringer, I was hassling with Orko, of course, but I don't see him showing up. I think that maybe they would try to keep the same feel that those old DC comics had, but
Yeah.
just improve upon them, and give it more of an in-depth,
Yeah,
rich story.
I mean, even in the mini comic we reviewed, there was no Orko.
Right.
So
Right.
that's so funny. They didn't have Orko in that mini comic.
Yeah. Yeah.
They
And
drew like all these Master Universe characters, but no Orko. Maybe I should like that mini comic a lot more. I take it back. I love that mini comic now. There was no Orko. But
no, it is your favorite. Yeah.
so, with that being said, like all right, will they get the Cringer? I mean, hopefully for Tony, I hope we do get Cringer. I hope it's something that brings something more. I mean, people really screwed up. Like he's in a zoo. That's so messed up.
Maybe he's with his girlfriend, Pretty Kitty from Filmation. Like maybe he is happy, and
He's
he
happy.
doesn't.
He's got a family. He's moved on.
And Adam's gonna wreck it when he becomes He-Man and takes him away. Like why did you do that?
Wait. No, he's not with Pretty Kid. He's with that Claudine.
Oh, he's with Claudine too. Oh, okay.
Because everyone's wiped. He's like I'm out of here. Somehow he fell into some pond, like in that stupid Filmation cartoon. Ends up in Etheria, and Castaspella's fountain shows up. He's like, "Hey Claudine, hey look, I'm green, you're pink. Let's hang out." And they get together, have little pink green babies. And he's like, "I'm done. You know what? He-Man makes too much violence for me." And obviously in the Filmation world, in Etheria, Hordak's a bigger joke than Skeletor.
Right.
So he's alright there. If I was Cringer from the Filmation, I would definitely go to Etheria. It's a lot less hassle.
Yeah.
They made it seem like, oh, the rebellion, we're doing this. Meanwhile, everyone's just chilling, having time in the Whispering Woods or wherever. Everyone's having a great day. Everyone's worrying about their makeup.
Just hanging out with the Twiggets and Kyle and Claudine and eating all the time, and it's just heaven now, heaven on earth for him. He doesn't want to go anywhere else but there.
It's good. He's having a great time. Castaspella's making stuff happen. He's all chilling because Castaspella's not gonna screw up a magic trick, so he has to worry about stupid Orko. So he's fine. He doesn't want to be bothered. So Adam, he gave up on Adam. So you know what? Cringer will not be in the new Masters book because he's on Etheria.
There's the answer.
There it is. It's proven fact. My only whole issue about this is that Where does this leave the story of Adam becoming He-Man being as a secret? Because that's the real question with this whole comic. Is that where does that leave it? Like where are we in this world? Because if Skeletor wipes the minds and He-Man, Adam is Adam and not He-Man. How doesn't like does Skeletor know? Does he win? That where does this world work?
I'm wondering. That's the exact same thing I was wondering. I was like, now, did he
Because
know that
honestly,
He-Man? Yeah, are they the same exact person? Does he know
right.
this now? And with the brainwash thing, because he's talking about the brainwash thing, like what did he do with everybody across the entire world of Eternia? Which remember that's nothing new. That was done in the Filmation when the Sorceress did that to wipe everybody's memory about Adora being kidnapped from Hordak. She had that power, and the only ones that remembered was Queen Marlena, King Grandor, and Man at Arms, and the Sorceress. They're the only ones that remembered that. So he said, if it was done or how it could have been done, what if when Skeletor gets the power of, Castle Grayskull, maybe there's some magic within there and he learns how to do it, and he purposely wipes the memory of everybody from Eternia, just like the Sorceress did.
Wow. See, that's a lot to do for a 6-issue miniseries. I think what
Yeah,
they should have just done was just like have He-Man be He-Man, but not realize he's He-Man. That would have been just a lot easier. Because now you start bringing Adam into it.
yeah,
I
I
think.
really want to see how they pull it off, what they're trying.
Well, let's just thank Tony Moore so much. Awesome, awesome. Actually, question. Like we got a lot of responses, but this was the first real question we got, and I do appreciate Tony. If you want to send more, we will gladly read it again. Though
Yeah,
it's not the same question because we're done with Cringer.
yeah, but yeah, it just went on to his brainwash too. But I mean, it was a good couple questions he was talking about there, and it brings up, just like I said, just so many theories and possibilities. Because you're right. I mean, it's only a 6-issue series, so how are they going to do it? How are they going to basically, in a way, just say what happened and how people lost their memories? Like, is it a select few? Is it the entire world of Eternia? I just can't wait to see what actually does happen, because then we can reflect back on what we were saying and with his question and see how close everybody was.
Yeah, that's my thing. I love like speculations. That to me is a lot more fun than actually knowing. Because
Yeah,
then you know. But when we speculate, we can just make up anything we want. It sounds a lot more fun, and we actually sound like we're professionals.
right. Yeah.
All right, well, let's get right into the second question, and this is from Mike Jenkins. Mike, I think I know him from the Shadow Reavers realm. I'm not too sure. I think that's
Yes.
right. I
Yeah.
know
That's
Mike
him.
from there, and
Good guy.
he's MYKAN on the He-Man.org and Manic Collector forums. And he goes, "Hello, gentlemen. I listened to the first Masters Comic Cast podcast and have been feverishly waiting for the next one, as I think this aspect of the Masterverse franchise needs representation. I am enjoying your ensemble and found the first podcast quite insightful. I know this podcast is mainly focused on the new DC comics, but have you guys thought about expanding to the old comic stars and like MVC, UK, mini comics, etc.? Now this is a good question because me and Joe have been talking about this ourselves.
Yeah.
I am all for once we are done covering all the new comics, and they say we're not doing any more new comics, covering the old comics because you know what? I like talking to He-Mans.
Me too. And
And
there's
since
so much. I mean,
yeah,
you're right. I mean, from the mini comics to the UK to every type of comic they have. I mean, how many people out there has never even read half those comics? And like me, and probably most people in the United States, we didn't even know about the UK comics until, what, maybe 10 years ago when the internet started getting hot and people talked about it. And what's so interesting about those comics from the UK is a lot of the origins for characters that most people don't really like. Let's say Snout Spout. A lot of people don't care about Snout Spout or Rio Blast. They actually had more of an origin in those UK comics, and they were interesting. They actually made characters that nobody really likes somewhat likable, if
I
you will.
like Rio Blast.
Oh, and I always like him. People play.
I'm a
They
cowboy
pick.
guy, so I
Yeah, and they
love those
picked on him, and
cowboys.
they said, "Oh God, what's a cowboy doing in Eternia?" And I was like, he
What's a ninja?
I know,
What's
yeah. What's a ninja? What's anything? I mean, you're right. But now the thing is, on the back of the Wonder Bread cards, if you ever had those,
yeah,
they
I have 'em.
mention okay, and you remember they mentioned about him being from the Star Band. It was like a planet, and he was the last law enforcer, and they enhanced on that in the UK comics. So, I mean, there is more to his story. Like I said, it's basically he's not from Eternia; he is from another planet. But people just want to focus and say he just looks strange and he's a cowboy. But like you said, I mean, what's a ninja doing there? I mean, there's plenty of people you could say that to. But Yuka, he did say, I mean, he answered that question too. He said that it's something that he wasn't sure if he wanted to do, or we would do in general, because this, our podcast is basically, focused towards the newer comics, the mini comics and the DC. And if, like, let's say, by some, miracle, the DC comic got picked up for monthly, of course, we're still going to focus on that. And if it didn't, I myself would like to try to do it because there's just so much to cover. And I know Yuka would want to too. He thought maybe, at first he wouldn't want to. I think he would change his mind. It's just
Yeah, according to his question, he said he would want to make it into a different podcast. And honestly, the name of this podcast is Masters Comic Cast. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's about
it doesn't
comics.
it doesn't need a name change. He thought maybe the name would be neat, and needing a change, but Masters Comic Cast.
And we do have to blame Yuka for one thing now, because we could do this because Yuka's not here. So when he listens to it, he can write me a nasty email.
Good.
When we did the last podcast, Yuka's the one that wanted to bring up Mechaneck and toys, so that didn't belong anywhere near our podcast. But we did it anyway because it's the He-Mans, and you can't have one without the other. So
yeah.
I think honestly, if Yuka has a day off and we want to talk about an old mini comic, I am more than fine with that. Originally I was down for actually reviewing the last mini comic of the old series before we did the new one, just to see the differences when we would talk about it, but we never got around to doing that.
Right.
But we were able to cover it in the one whole podcast, so it actually worked out kind of in our favor.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, if we take your time, if we take a mini comic, we talk about it, we go through stuff, there's so much we could talk about. And we have such varied stuff for how we like. I mean, Yuka, of course, grew up with a lot of this stuff. He had the Finnish versions of all these comics, so he even had a completely different stuff because they would severely edit the books just to make them to one book, and so you would see he has a whole different perspective just from the books he's read.
True.
So, I mean, like you said with the UK stuff, I only found the UK stuff when I went to look for a torrent. Yes, I said that, and found all the He-Man in one big huge collection. I mean, there's so much to talk about between the Ladybird books and the mini comics and the story. There's a lot of other storybooks, and there's don't forget the American magazines, the UK magazine, and of course the Star Comics, which is crap, and the 2000X comics. There's so much we could talk about. There's so many things to talk about. There's so many story arcs.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different origins for everybody. I mean, even different ways of He-Man maybe getting the power sword or becoming He-Man. There's so many vast different things. I mean, even from those old record books and audio books. But, I mean, I guess to answer Michael's questions, my God, yes, I think we really would love to do that. I would love to cover them. Even if, like, the DC did get picked up monthly, we could still do something. Every once in a while, still do another comic. There's nothing wrong with that. We have a gigantic library. That's just almost, it's endless. We could talk about that for the longest.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things we can do whatever we want. And Mike Jenkins, I want to thank you for your question. It was really awesome.
Yeah, great question. It's like he was reading our mind.
Well, everyone's reading the mind. Now, wow, we have one last question, and I was just amazed about where this question came from. I'm going to probably say his name really wrong, so I apologize ahead. Dewald De Lang?
And it's Duvall.
That's Duvall?
Yeah,
but
Duvall.
it's Dewald. I'm from New York, so I call that Wald. So if I'm wrong, if your name is Devon, I apologize. But
well, I was going to say the reason I know is he does another podcast. He'll do the other Council of the First Ones podcast. So that's how I learned his name, because I did the same thing. I called him Duvall, and I learned it was Duvall. And I was like, my bad, I didn't know.
Duvall, okay.
Yeah.
Well, he he's the admin for the South African Masters Universe fan page on Facebook. His name is Benzie Man on the He-Man.org, Manny Collector, and the TGR forums. And he has like 3 good questions. Of course, he really floats our boat at the beginning, and really, really awesomely nice to us, So
he's a great guy.
Yeah, really nice. He wrote a really big beginning thing, and he was, he basically was just saying about all the new design sketches, about the Philip Tan and all that stuff, and so then he has questions. So we're going to take this one question at a time, and we'll just talk from there. So his first question was, how do you feel regarding the fact that the design sketches look considerably different to the popular images of these Master Universe characters portrayed in the media? Joe, go ahead.
I always like something different. I don't expect everything to always look the same, look like Filmation, look like the classic, the DC comics, the original ones. I like something different. And at first, I was kind of I don't know. I was kind of skeptical when I seen the picture of the Sorceress and Skeletor and He-Man all together. Like I told you in the last our last podcast, I wasn't quite sure. I was like, is that what they exactly look like? And then I found out they were sketched, and they still didn't have all the inks and all that stuff. So, because I didn't understand about it. But now that I know, obviously they're going to be inked and everything else. I do like the designs. I mean, you got to always have something a little fresh and new and try to be inviting. And I don't. I'd hope that most Masters Universe fans just don't look at it and say, okay, that's it, I'm done, I'm not going to read it because that doesn't look like He-Man, Skeletor, and Sorceress. I mean, come on, everything is
There's
going
like
to have
hating the He-Man live action movie because none of them look like any of them.
Exactly. I mean, it's a little different take, but you know what? Are they that really far off from what they actually were looking like, originally? Yes, they got a little different design around their pouch or their armor or something, but I mean, as long as they can keep basically with what the story has always been about, yes, with a little difference, we know they're going to do that. I don't see anything wrong with it. I do like the designs. It's refreshing. It's a different take. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like. Once it's all fleshed out and finally get that comic.
We'll deal with it. It happens on podcasts sometimes. Audio does get crackly.
Okay.
All right. So as for me, the designs are fine. I noticed it's going much more barbarian route, which makes me very happy.
Mm-hmm.
I've always considered my Master Universe more fantasy than sci-fi, and that's because the original mini comics were that. It's a guy with a skull head. There's no reason it should be like laser guns and stuff, but they have it. See, in my mind as a kid, I always took it that the world. Do you remember Thundar the Barbarian?
Yeah.
Okay, Thundar's world was good, and then like in 1994, meteor came, destroyed the world. 10,000 years later, we came back and it's barbarian sorcery, but there's all this old technology laying around.
Mm-hmm.
I always took it that the elders, the former people, had the technology. That's why the Power Point Dread was like this mystical, old realm technology. Where it's a freaking plane. It's they don't use it anymore. He rides on a giant tiger, and there's magic. There's
Right.
weapons, but it's more about old technology they didn't create. It just they took existing. That's how I always took it as. Like,
Oh, is it? Oh, that's a cool fresh take. I never thought of that.
that's the way I always saw it as for me as a kid. When I played it, I would prefer it being that it used to be something happened and it used to be all this high technology and then it got lost over time and they just adapted it to fit what they needed. That's the way I always took it as a kid because I always liked the barbarian aspect, but it is always cool. Like the attack track, but the attack track has this like almost steampunk look to it. Not the one from the Filmation cartoon show where it looked like a giant minivan. I'm talking about the real attack track, which was red and they had the little tracks. Look at the
Yeah.
Dragon Walker, and look at the all those things. Like it's a mix of technology and fantasy, but there's a high end fantasy and barbarian slash uh, British knightlyhood stuff to it, especially with Stridor and oh
Night Stalker.
yeah, rapist.
Oh,
Yeah,
Rape.
Night Stalker. Yeah, how classy is that, friend? Where they had like these pseudo armor stickers on them, but they did have guns, but they were kind of horses, and but they had like it looked like armor, like you would see on the old horses when the knights would go into battle. There was like this big hybrid of stuff. So to me, my storyline was that went like that. So when I see these designs, Skeletor's a little bit bigger. I like my villain being a little bit bigger. It doesn't, to me, I know what Pixel Dance on the other podcast was that it makes He-Man supposed to be the most powerful man in the universe. To me, He-Man is the toughest guy around. He is like a Conan. He's not Superman. I don't like Superman guys, and I'll tell you why. Superman shows up and there's a guy with a handgun. Who's gonna win? Right?
Right. That
So
was true.
when you see He-Man, I like the mini comics take where the armor helped enhance his strength. And when Merman got that armor off of him, he had He-Man down on the ground with that sword. You're like, oh well, Merman's actually pretty tough. Of course, Filmation ruined all that and made him Superman. It's a joke. You know
Yeah,
who's gonna win. There's no way He-Man's losing.
No, and you're right, and I think that's what this comic and I'm hoping is going to do. Yes, he's going to be very, very strong,
Yeah.
but not like you said, Superman level strong. Because it's like again, like I think I said in the last podcast. I mean, my God, if it was logic, He-Man when he's fighting Beast-Man, comparing with how his powers are in Filmation or anybody, he could punch a hole right through him and punch him in half.
Yeah.
So he's got to hold back. It's like so make it comparable. Yeah, make him very strong, and then having a like you said a bigger opponent which I think, well, I didn't know if I'd be running into his next question if you wanted to go into his other question about the different sizes of Skeletor,
Yeah,
or
let's
if
do
you.
that. We'll go with that because that would help with the
Yeah.
basically. Devol's next question was about the how they're so varied in size. Pretty much, just we'll look at
Yeah,
Skeletor. Yeah.
and I like that. Like I said, and I don't mind because in a way, it always seems like it makes the victory that much sweeter when you know he's against an opponent that looks bigger and more intimidating. I mean, having that equal playing field where everybody is exactly the same size. You know, like how Filmation was. My God, even King Miro has a muscular body, and it's the same exact look for every guy in the whole freaking world. But it's nice having different sizes, especially for the main villain. Skeletor's the main villain. Why not have her look, have him look a little more imposing and menacing? And then, like you said, when the battles occur and He-Man eventually wins, yes, it feels like he really triumphed more over just somebody that's just basically the same size. And thank God, one thing that scares me is I always thought somebody would go the route of, since Skeletor, even though he's not a skeleton and it's just his face,
Mm-hmm.
some people have always wanted Skeletor to be real skinny and decrepit. And I was like, oh my God, who would want that? I mean, that's not me. I'd never want it. I don't know about you, but I was like, I would never wanted a skinny Skeletor. It sounds very strange. And then it
Look, if
looks
they
like, oh,
didn't call him Skeletor and they would call him Skeleton Man, he'd still be a man with those skeleton parts. So if you wanted to do a little something, I wouldn't mind maybe keeping that whole. I mean, his freaking skin's blue. I mean, he's not a skeleton. He's got a skull. His head's a skull, but it's in a hood for a reason. It's probably something there. It's magical, mystical. Maybe if you want to make his hands have a little something, I'm fine with that. Like in the He-Man movie, Skeletor
right,
had the face, but then he had these crazy looking gloves, and they
yeah,
looked like they had little bone designs in the metal on his hands. Something like that would have been all right,
right.
but not making him a skeleton. Sorry, that's a joke.
Yeah, that decrepit thing, it used to, I mean, that actually hurt my head so much when people thought that was a good idea. I was like, my God. And then does that seem like that's an intimidating opponent then? You're fighting a man that almost just looks like a living skeleton, with just a little flesh. Oh, yeah, that's a hell of a battle. Or, that's a battle.
Oh yeah, it's because how is He-Man the most powerful man in the universe going to be a skeleton?
Exactly.
Oh,
And so,
I keep think, I keep thinking of the in the classrooms when they're teaching doctors, they have that skeleton on the strings.
yeah, and I think of when some people, if they were talking about that, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie called Scary Movie. I don't know if it was part 2 or 3, but they were running, and the one girl didn't know what she was running from. She was running with her friend. They're like, "Oh my God, it's chasing us!" She's like, "What is it?" And they turn around, and it's a skeleton that was chasing them. She's like, "What is a skeleton? It's just a bunch of bones." And she grabbed it and she put the arm where the leg was and leg where the arm was and mixed it
Yeah,
all around. Like, who cares? Am I supposed to be afraid of a skeleton chasing me?
yeah. It's not. I'm more afraid of a person chasing me.
Yeah, so I want Skeletor, and I do like that depiction of him being bigger. I think that's a cool new take, and I don't know how big he's actually going to look, once the comic's out, because that was, just a nice sketch perspective. But I hope he is bigger.
I mean, let's take it. Maybe he's just standing more upright because he's won, so he's got a little more confidence in his step. That make you guys feel better. They're actually around the same height, but he's a little more confident.
Yeah.
So he's just standing a little taller. He's a little proud of himself. Maybe he's been hitting the gym a little bit. You don't know. Skeletor's got more time now.
Yeah, and I actually, yeah, and I don't even know it. That's I guess a good thing is, have you heard any feedback? I actually don't know. Are fans upset that he looks bigger? Because I mean, I see he brings
Let
up
me
the
tell
question,
you, and you guys listening to this all know you are. You fans are all over the place. You'll get everyone who hates it, everyone who loves it, everyone says I like it, but I prefer this, and so you're not gonna please nobody. So I don't care if they like it or not. I want to read the comic. And I'm gonna tell you, it sounds really jerky to say, but I'm serious because I go to all the forums and you hear all these stupid things that people want to say. People are like, I don't like this for this reason. I don't like that for this reason. Well, my problem is that it doesn't matter. It's something.
yeah,
All right. If you weren't a kid and you didn't watch that He-Man movie, live action movie, if you were taking it as you are now as a fan, nobody would like the live action movie now. If that movie was made now, just the way it was then, now, every He-Man fan would be in an uproar.
true.
Alright, so think about that. It's your mental perspective on things. I think a lot of our fans, just He-Man fans in general, they fight each other because you have your own varied opinions of how you like your story, how you like your He-Man. I don't like my He-Man being a comic act. I don't like my He-Man. He's got a battle axe, a shield, and a sword. Never used it in the cartoon show.
Yeah, he
The
never even
Star
had it.
Comics didn't do anything. The
Right.
mini comics, the first mini comics, he barely even used a sword. He was fighting with an axe.
Yeah.
This is stuff that I'm talking about. This is what they come with these weapons in the pack because this is what they were based on. And I know you fans want to keep saying that Roger Sweet is a genius, and that there was never any Conan influence. I'm sorry, you're delusional. It's completely Conan influence. Anytime you make a muscle-bound white dude who's gonna be a barbarian, it's Conan.
Yeah, and especially around that time when it came out. I mean, you could tell that. I mean, it's we've gotten something completely different now, but I mean, you're right. Especially when you looked at all that original art, it was always the axe, it was always the shield, and most of the time it was never the sword. Because remember, it was always the fight to unite the two halves of the power sword to make
Yeah.
one. But I mean, it was rough and it was tough, and like I said, when it came to the Filmation cartoon, you never seen that shield ever used by He-Man ever.
He didn't
He
need
never
to be on the defensive because he's the most powerful man in the universe.
Yeah, nothing could stop him. I mean, my God! And then when you look at like even the MYP, I mean, he's picking up something like it's basically like a mountain. He's picking up this gigantic thing and whipping it into whatever the outer
See,
space or something.
I'm sorry. I can't have my heroes being invincible. Invincible, not invulnerable like the Tick. I'm down with it. He's tough. He may gets a beating, but he gets right back up, and you can see him taking a beating. I mean, when you have to create villains to make your hero vulnerable, you're doing something wrong. DC did that. Superman, for years, Superman shows up. Well, what am I reading it for? He's going to beat Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor's just a dude. Well, he'll build the suit this time out of kryptonite. He'll figure out a way. And then they made Doomsday to kill him, but it didn't really kill him. Now Doomsday is a joke. So it's you when you do something new, you ruin what you've done before. Remember when the toys were created, Vicron, that toy right there, is the three most popular toys that were popular always with boys. Remember that always. Military, fantasy, and science fiction.
Hmm.
So you have your Star Wars, you have your G.I. Joe, and you have your Barbarian. You
Yep.
have your fantasy world, your Dungeons and Dragons, whatever you want to call it. So that's what the toy was made to be like. And then what they did was, well, that works, cool, so let's just put that all into one. And that's what they did. So
Yeah.
don't go nutty over He-Man not being big enough or that he's the most strongest man ever. He needs to be believable.
And that's what I hope they can do with this comic, is put it to an element to where you do feel like the hero could be vulnerable and in danger, and how is he going to escape the situation and survive. And of course, you do want the hero to win. Yes, I mean that's how it usually is. But in the cartoon, it was, yes, as a child you were just always loving to see He-Man always win. He's the hero, but you're right, nothing could stop him. So when there was a situation, if he was ever in trouble, it caught your attention and it really grabbed you, because like it didn't seem like it was much being just put in encased in glass and have his energy sucked. But when that happened to him in Secret of the Sword, and you've seen, oh my God, He-Man is losing all his strength, it was like, what in the world's going on?
It's called Superman 2, but go on.
Yeah, 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 exactly. I know what you're gonna say. Don't do it. But at least when you have your hero in that situation of finally he's not invincible and he's not going to be able to completely stop somebody, it makes you get more engrossed in the story. So with this new comic, I'm sure it's going to be in this type of element. At least I'm hoping, to where he can be vulnerable and maybe he could be hurt, and yes, he will win, but it's not going to be basically just He-Man just completely wins. It's always at the end of the day, it's
This
over.
is going to be a real world situation, which will be a lot more interesting to watch. If you want
Yeah.
these characters to be like in the mini comic, the new mini comic, they talk about them being underground. If He-Man's as strong as he is in the Filmation cartoon show, then why are they underground for?
Right.
Superman never went underground. Never had to. He's freaking Superman.
Yeah, I'm
You
still
know?
completely lost with all the. I mean, that's why I guess I'm really looking forward to issue 2 of the mini comics too, is to see
Yeah,
where
where are
are
we
they.
going?
Yeah, where are we going? Because like right now, it's making absolutely no sense. I think that's why we're also critical and we're able to compare. And it wasn't just to the original Powers of Grayskull mini comic in the '80s. It's just in general comparing to Logic and comics. And like, what are we talking about? So I can look, and you can, and all of us, when we get that next issue, with really fresh, open eyes and open opinion, and really have a good judgment that we could have for that second one.
That's why we're really excited for it. Now, there was actually he did have another question technically, but was, do you feel the adaptation in style of these popular characters could influence fans accepting the DC comics. And I mean, that's a kind of we kind of brought it up, but let's just kind of really put our stake in it. I think overall the fans are gonna read it. If they hate it or they like it, just like with the toys, they're gonna buy it. Straight up, they're not gonna go. I'm not gonna buy this. They'll say it. If they don't like a design, they're gonna say, "I'm not buying this at all." All of a sudden, they buy it.
Yeah.
We have tons of fans that, I mean, I respect that they're mad, but just don't say to me you're not going to buy it because you're lying. And I believe that Mattel probably did lose fans, but I don't think they lost any diehard fans. I think they lost fans that were just getting into it and just got tired.
Yeah, that's a
They're the fly
possibility.
by night fan that they think they like it. When there's nothing out, you could be a diehard fan. You know what I mean? You go to these forums, like there's lots of sites, like the Brave Star sites and whatever. There's no new toys coming out, and they could talk all they want. Oh, I love it, and if they made something like the Masters, I would buy it, blah, blah, blah. They get so excited. But if it came out, they would hate it. And they weren't really dedicated. They'd have to spend money. So you got the fans that could say they're diehards, but they're not buying the stuff.
Yeah,
They
and
just,
that's the other thing. I mean, we're starving for stuff. We have no comics, we have nothing, we have no form of media, and it's stuff that we say, boy, I really wished, I'd hope we could get a comic, and then we finally get it, and they show pictures, and it's like you said, it's 50-50, which fans are entitled to their opinion. Everybody can,
yeah,
they
I
can
mean,
love
I have no
it.
problem with you like it, hate it, but you know what? It's what you're going to get. All
Yeah,
right?
and they're so critical. The thing is, it's just don't be so critical about judging it until really you read it. It's like how we speculate about what we thought we were going to see in everything, the mini comics to this new comic. It's speculation. I mean, we can, I guess, comment, say, "Oh, the outfit's a little weird," but I mean, some of them get so harsh to say, "Oh, this is completely terrible. It's horrible. I'm not going to buy it." But like we said, I'm
I'm
sure
gonna
they're
make a
going to take a look.
petition against it. I'm gonna make them listen to me, and they're gonna
Yeah,
do what I say because me as a fan, I'm that one person who's gonna spend that $2.99, so I matter. It's like, no, sweetheart. The overall final numbers always matter.
yeah, and I'm sure that, like I said, in the long run, I think, like the fans that say they might not have, just like with a lot of figures, they said they never buy. Once they bought it or they seen other pictures, they said, it didn't look that bad. I kind of like it. And it'll be the same thing with the comic. They'll get it. And yeah, hell, I mean, maybe they won't even like it, but I think they will read it. Even though they said they won't, they will read it. And hopefully, like I said, it could be something good enough to where it could warrant a monthly one. And think of this. It's not only Masters of the Universe fans. Hopefully, now that it's got the DC label, possibly. Maybe now you can get other fans that never even really heard of or read Masters of the Universe. Maybe
Or,
they'll start buying it.
or just like it was back in 2000, it's the nostalgia factor. Like, oh my God, really? This looks cool. But what happens with the 2000 X books is that they really changed the design. So the old school fans that were like, "Oh, I remember he." Well, that's not He-Man to me. That's I don't think I'd want to read that. But this is very traditional kind of fantasy art. So people could be like, "Oh my God, I remember He-Man. Oh, look at this! It's so cool. Look at Skeletor. I think I might pick this up." And you
I think
might
so.
get them at the comic book store just saying, "You know what? I'll buy it. I'll pick it up."
And I think so. I mean, you brought up a really good point there because there's so many people that, for He-Man, it is the mini comics, it is the art. That's what brought them into collecting in general. Some
The
of them don't.
box art. That
Yeah, the
box
box
art.
art. That's what I meant. It's the box art was unreal. You would go to the store. What kid would go to the store and look at a box of Castle Grayskull or anything, and you're enthralled, and you buy it, and you want to keep it? Toys and things don't do that nowadays. You don't care about the box art because there is nothing. But so the fans of the original box art and mini comics, I think, will really want to jump on this because there's many fans that always hated Filmation, or ones like how you're saying, the more you watch it, the more you even dislike it. So this isn't going to turn away anybody that loved the mini comics, I believe,
Yeah.
or box art, because it feels like it, and I think they're going to really want to see it.
It's a new take on it. I think it will work well.
True.
All right, I do want to say a couple little things. I was listening to the second podcast, and we were talking about how, like, to me, when I was talking about how Miro doesn't exist and didn't exist, like you said, he was in the cartoon shows. But to me, I just wanted to bring this up because I want to make people understand that I'm not stupid. Just get this out of the way. I just never needed him to exist as a fan. Like, already told you what I thought my concept of the Master Universe was. For me, I didn't need Miro because Randor wasn't that young looking. Because He-Man, to me, if you watch the cartoon show Filmation, Adam wasn't like 15. He looked like he was like 30. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He didn't look like a teenage kid. He was freaking muscle bound dude just being a lazy bum chilling with his tiger. So he was already probably in his 20s or whatever. So I looked at Randor as an older cat, and if you ever remember read the DC comics, Randor and Marlena were old.
Real old. Oh yeah, got it. Yeah, they were
So
old looking.
what do I care about his father? I don't care about Miro. It doesn't affect my world that He-Man is in. Miro was the past of that, so it meant nothing to me.
I guess what was the thing about him is if, I mean, what happened was just he was introduced, or his father was lost. They found him, but then he said, "Oh, I'm gonna go search for Eternia and go look around now." I'm like, so it felt like, what was the impact of it? If he could have at least joined, let's say, the show more, or had an impact, or did something, or decisions, or did some kind of
Right.
fighting, whatever. But you're right, he was just a character that kind of appeared. I'm gonna journey out and check Eternia. I was like, okay, see you later. I'm glad we found you, Dad. Now go get lost again.
Yeah, but that's it. We didn't need it. It was unnecessary. Same thing with the unnamed one and with Horde Prime. These are characters we never got a toy Horde Prime, and obviously any character that has no damn name or a presence isn't anything to me. I'm sorry, I'm not scared of something I don't know. I don't fear the unknown. I fear the known. Because if you fear the unknown, then you're an idiot. You can't be wasting time worrying about stuff that you have no control over. Like I said, I have a kid and a wife, and you have your family. We all have our stuff. I don't have time to worry about stuff that doesn't exist, and especially my fantasy worlds. I've never heard of Captain America worry about a character that didn't exist.
And do you think they're going to do something stupid to where we're not going to even see the unnamed one? Now that would be irritating if they mentioned him again.
No, he's not going to come. I think because they have no way of even making a concept. At least with Horde Prime, even though whatever, they had a kind of idea what to do with him, and he had a name.
Yeah. It would be irritating because, like I said, what is the point of
that the unnamed one ends up being Eldor or some crap. They can make some crap out of it, and and there's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, if they tried something, but you're right. If they just left it to where they're just bringing this name up again, and we don't seem like, what is the point? There wasn't even a point of doing that. Then just leave it out completely.
Yeah, there would be no point to it, but they put it in because it was, I guess, an homage to the original, but it was unnecessary to me. But on that note, I said let's just wrap up what I want to just first say is I gotta thank everybody who's been listening to our podcast. I'm over astounded about how many people have been really awesome to us and listening to us and been nice, really nice.
They are. They're great fans and love the feedback, love the questions and everything, and I hope they keep it coming because we love answering and talking about them too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really cool. I gotta thank them, and I want to thank the people who wrote us emails. I mean, it's so cool. And I just want to thank all the people on like He-Man.org and all the Facebook groups and all the wherever they listen to the podcast and on YouTube or Blip or wherever you guys find it, and iTunes, I guess too. And you listen to it and you enjoy it. Let us know. We want to know who you are. I mean, we'd love to do another one of these where we can just thank you guys personally and have more questions because that's really more fun is not just reading comics and talking about it, but we want to hear what you guys think because we want your opinion. I mean, your opinion counts. I say it doesn't normally, but that's because I mean it counts to us because we're not actually selling the comics.
Yeah, because
we're
even
not
our
making the toys.
I mean, yeah, I mean, like, my God, they might not even, like I said, it's not that they have to think our opinions are right either. They can even say, and, come in and send emails. And if you disagreed with something we said, say something. We could, it's always good back and forth banter. I mean, that's how you do it. You got to have different opinions.
It's a diverse world, and everything is different in it, especially in the Masters. I mean, I can't say anything more than that. I mean, it's definitely worth it. And, Joe, pimp your stuff.
All right, well, like I said, I'm Joe Amato, and you can find me on Facebook at Joe Amato Custom Creations, where I'm always showing my new Masters Universe custom figures, and I usually debut them on Thursdays. You can always find them on Thursdays. And also you can follow me on Twitter with the name Joe Amato 2, and that's a number 2. And that's, I almost want to change my name because when I say I'm number 2, it's like I'm wondering if people say, yeah, he's crap. So maybe I should change my name.
No, keep it. It's your name. I think that's fine. I mean,
is that it? So all right.
But now you've already said it twice. Every time you post,
yeah.
Once it's out there.
And plus, I already did that. And plus, now that I put it out there, they are gonna say, "Yeah, Joe is crap." But they can love me or hate me.
Yeah, they don't have to love you, hate you, as long as they buy your custom creations.
Yeah, so but that's where you could reach me. And like I said, I appreciate all feedback. I love hearing from everybody, and just we can keep the conversation going.
Definitely. Well, for Yuka, I would say on Twitter, Yuka is Toon Yuka. That's UKKA JUKKA. Let me spell it right. He has this website called Scrolls of Eternia. He has his wonderful video show about Master Universe. You guys know it. If you know who Yuka is, you know him. He's everywhere. Yuka. He's all over the place.
Yep.
So go follow him. I have to say, you guys, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Always go to Alternative Minds, mindz.com. Email us questions at masterscomiccast@alternativeminds.com. That's once again with the mindz.com. And keep it going. Let us know, and thanks really for listening. I appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks again, guys, and look forward to hearing your feedback.